Why are we afraid to ask for help? Does this situation sound familiar to you? You find yourself faced with an obstacle, challenge, or other situation that feels almost impossible to overcome. You know that you can get past it, though all you have to do is ask someone else, like a family member, friend, or loved one, to help you. And yet, you don't. For some reason, you decide against asking others for assistance and continue trying to tough it out on your own. Have you ever stopped to wonder, why is that? Why do some people appear to be so afraid to ask others for help with their problems and instead try to face them alone? Our writers here at Bestie find this a very interesting question, so we've decided to unpack it and search for any possible answers. But before we get into that, do you know what would really help us? If you were to subscribe to our channel and click that notification bell to stay in the loop on all of our latest videos and stories. Now, on to the big question. Why do some people find it so hard to ask others for help? After all, it seems to go against anything that would make sense. Why would anyone choose to struggle alone, instead of reaching out to others who can possibly provide some help and assistance with whatever the first person was trying to accomplish? Well, as it turns out, the answer to this question may have something to do with our psychology. According to Dr. Joan Rosenberg, an expert in emotional mastery, we may have become conditioned to believe that asking for help is to be perceived as either a burden or a sign of emotional weakness. In her article on the subject for Psychology Today, Dr. Rosenberg writes this: "We are inherently social beings, yet most people who have grown up in an individualistic culture like the United States are often raised with the belief that relying on others and asking for help is a burden to the other and makes you seem emotionally weak. Despite these views, there is ultimately very little that any of us can do to succeed fully on our own, even if that is hard to acknowledge." Dr. Rosenberg argues that we need to be able to balance our individual needs for both independence as well as dependence, rather than leaning too hard into one over the other. In other words, we should recognize our need to be alone in order to pursue and accomplish individual goals and motivations. But we should also recognize when it's necessary for us to be with others, as well as when it's necessary to ask others to help with a goal. Our emotional strength should be defined by our ability to not only act independently, but also to know when it's time to look for others to assist us, and being confident and comfortable enough with ourselves to ask for it. According to Rosenberg, asking for help is not a burden, nor a sign of weakness. It's a sign of humanness. Another reason that someone might be afraid to ask others for help is due to the fear of rejection. The fear of asking for help only to be denied or told no can put a lot of stress and social pressure on the person doing the asking, and it can be easy to internalize this rejection and feel as though the reason the other person said no has something to do with us directly. But we should remember that it doesn't have to be this way. Lori Linewind, a psychotherapist, counselor, and hypnotherapist, had this to say in her article for Good Therapy. "Being told no does not have to be awful. We do not have to weave a story and personalize the rejection. It may be that the person we chose to ask didn't have the appropriate resources to help us at the time. It's best to accept the no as an answer to our request, not a negation of ourselves. A no tells us not to waste any more time and energy asking this particular person, and guides us closer to someone who will say yes." In other words, if you ask someone to help and then they say no, try not to take it personally. It could just mean that they don't have anything to offer at that moment that can help you with your particular problem, and it has nothing to do with you as a person. Instead of getting hung up over the rejection, move on and continue asking for help until you find someone who can and will provide assistance with your problem. Dr. Linewind tells us that there are 3 things that we can gain by asking others for help. Firstly, it gives us the ability and opportunity to move forward, allowing us to solve whatever problems we are faced and become more productive. Secondly, we gain the ability and opportunity to collaborate, allowing us to share both advice and admiration with people we are helping or are helping us. Last but not least, asking for help gives us the ability and opportunity to learn and develop new approaches and strategies based on the kind of help that we receive. This way, we don't only receive assistance in solving problems and overcoming obstacles, but we also create new avenues and opportunities to help others and in turn be helped in the future. Of course, even if you already know and recognize all of these things, it can still be difficult to actually ask someone for help. This is especially true if you happen to be an introvert, because introverts commonly get their energy from being alone and having time to themselves. Asking for help can require them to explain things and ask and answer questions with other people, all of which can prove to be very emotionally draining under some circumstances. Even in situations where you know that asking for help is the right course of action, the actual act of, well, asking someone to help can still prove to be a daunting task for some people. So, how can we potentially fix this problem? Well, one way in which we can make asking for help a better experience is by stopping to evaluate the way in which we ask, and potentially changing our strategy when it comes to asking for assistance. In her book, Mayday, Asking for Help in Times of Need, writer and founder of Bouchard Executive Coaching, M. Nora Claver, offers ways in which we can rephrase our requests or help in ways that are much more mutually comfortable for both parties. Claver writes this: "Most people have never been taught how to ask properly, so we do it badly, sometimes using guilt, coercion, and blackmail. We solicit pity when we want assistance, or we ask the wrong person. We might have felt humiliated doing it in the past, so we fear doing it in the future." Instead of using these unhealthy approaches to ask for help, Claver suggests that we instead focus on being straightforward, examine our options closely, make your request for help in person and privately. Pay attention to the other person's cues and to always thank others for their assistance. By keeping these strategies in mind, you can do your part to make sure that asking for help is as pleasant of an experience as possible, both for you yourself as well as for the person you have chosen to seek help from. After all, you wouldn't want someone else to try and get help from you in an unpleasant or disrespectful way. So, asking in a way that is both respectful and fully expresses your gratitude ensures that the other person knows that their efforts to help you are being fully appreciated. When you find yourself faced with a difficult or challenging situation, the simple act of asking another person for help might not always feel like the obvious solution. Whether it's due to a fear of appearing weak or burdensome, the fear of being rejected, or simply a fear of the emotional drain from the act of asking, there are a number of factors which may cause a person to hesitate when it comes to requesting assistance. In times like these, all you need to do is remember that the act of asking for help does not need to be as unpleasant of an experience as some might make it seem. As long as you recognize that there's no shame in appearing vulnerable, that there is nothing emotionally weak about seeking help from others, and that there are ways to ask others to help that can make your experience less of a pain, you should have no problems with achieving the things that you need to achieve. And in turn, you may also be given new opportunities for collaboration, learning, and personal growth as well. Was this video helpful to you? What are some other techniques or approaches that you can think of that can make it easier for people to ask others for help? If you have anything you'd like to share, go ahead and let us know in the comment section below.
Enjoyed this video? Hit the like button and share with your friends. Also, subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. Thanks for watching.